Hello, my name is HQ of HQ Reacts. Welcome to my channel. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button, share the stream, and click the notification button for new content. Thank you.
Hello. You guys see the moniker. You see the name of the show. Why the strongest power still cannot win. People who read the Bible understand the story of David and Goliath. Imagine two armies facing each other across a narrow valley in ancient Israel, the valley of Elah. On one side stood the mighty Philistine army, a powerful invading force, armed with the best bronze weapons of their day. As you can see, the valley of Elah is in Israel. See Jerusalem here, Bethlehem, Valley of Elah, Gaza. Okay. So, Valley of Elah was in Israel. So, on one side stood the army of Israel, led by King Saul. For 40 long days, a giant named Goliath walked out every morning and every evening to taunt the Israelites. Goliath was enormous. Goliath was 9 feet tall. He wore a bronze helmet and a heavy coat of armor that weighed more than 125 pounds. The head of his spear alone weighed about 15 pounds of iron, and his shield was carried by another soldier walking in front of him. Goliath's voice boomed across the valley of Elah. Come here, and I will give you flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. Goliath challenged the Israelites to send him one man to fight him in single combat. If the Israelite champion won, the Philistines would serve Israel. If Goliath won, Israel would serve the Philistines. Day after day, the entire Israelite army, including King Saul and his seasoned warriors, stood frozen in fear. No one dared to accept the challenge of Goliath. Now, enter a young man, a young shepherd boy named David. David was the youngest of 8 sons of a man named Jesse from Bethlehem. At the time, David was not even a soldier. He was at home tending his father's sheep. One day, Jesse sent David to the battlefield with food for his 3 older brothers who were serving in Saul's army. When David arrived, he heard Goliath's taunts and saw the fear on the faces of the Israelite soldiers. David was shocked. David said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" David's older brother, Elah, scolded him and told him to go back home to the sheep. But David kept asking questions. Word reached King Saul, who sent for the young shepherd. Saul tried to discourage David. "You are only a boy, and he, Goliath, has been a warrior for his whole youth." But David replied with calm confidence, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it and struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hands of this Philistine called Goliath. Saul finally agreed and even offered David his own royal armor and sword. David tried it on, but it was too heavy and cumbersome. He took it off. Instead, he went down to the stream. David picked up 5 smooth stones, put them in his shepherd's bag, and took his slingshot in his hand and walked toward Goliath. When the giant saw David coming, he was insulted. Goliath said, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" He cursed David by his gods and shouted, "Come to me and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." David answered boldly, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All of those gathered around will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." As Goliath moved closer to attack, David ran quickly toward the battle line. He reached into his bag, took out a stone, placed it in his slingshot, and hurled it with all his might. The stone flew straight and true, striking Goliath right in the forehead. The giant stumbled, fell face down to the dirt, and died on the spot. David had no sword of his own, so he ran forward, stood over the fallen giant, pulled out Goliath's own massive sword from its sheath, and cut off his head. When the Philistines saw their champion dead, they turned and fled. The Israelite army surged forward with a great shout and chased them all back to their own territory. That day, a young shepherd with nothing but a slingshot That day, a young shepherd with nothing but a slingshot, 5 smooth stones, and unshakable faith in God defeated the mightiest warrior of his time. Thousands of years later, in the spring of 2026, the world watched a strikingly similar drama unfold, not in the valley of Elah, but across the Persian Gulf and the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Once again, a seemingly invincible giant, the United States, with its nearly $900 billion defense budget, carried strike groups and precision-guided munitions, faced a much smaller sanctions-battled opponent, Iran. And once again, the underdog had a sling and a single decisive stone, control of the world's most critical oil checkpoint. David didn't just survive that moment. He stepped into it. He didn't wait. He didn't hesitate. He moved forward deliberately, confidently, after the giant had already started to fall. Stay with that image, though. The dust is still settling. The air is thick. Goliath is down, and nobody fully understands yet what just changed. Because what happens after the giant falls, that's what determines everything. The same pattern is playing out right now. In April 2026, the fighting paused. We supposedly have a ceasefire. A fragile ceasefire settles in, and right after that, just like David stepping forward, Iran comes out publicly with its 10-point plan. A 10-point plan. Who knows if that 10-point plan is the truth? Who knows whether it's a lie or some goofy stuff everybody got going on? Okay. The 10-point plan. Iran releases 10 points, it says, are basis for ceasefire talks. The American guarantee of non-aggression with Iran. Number 2, Iran maintains control of the Strait of Hormuz. Number 3, ending the regional war on all fronts, including against Iran's ally Hezbollah in Lebanon. Withdrawing the U.S. combat forces from all bases and positions in the region. Reparations to Iran for war damages. Acceptance of Iran's right to nuclear enrichment. Lifting all primary sanctions on Iran. Lifting all secondary sanctions on Iran. Termination of all resolutions against Iran by the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency. 10. Termination of the United Nations Security Council resolutions against Iran. So Iran has a 10-point plan. Okay. Goliath is down. Okay. This is playing out right now. The fighting is paused. A fragile ceasefire, maybe not even a real ceasefire. And right after that, just like David stepping forward, Iran came out with this 10 points. This 10-point plan. Okay. Not quietly, not behind closed doors, open, out in the open. They're not asking, Iran is not asking, they're declaring. We keep control of the Strait of Hormuz. We keep nuclear enrichment. You don't attack us again. You pull your forces back and you pay for the damage. That's not defeat in any way, shape, or form. That's a side that believes it just landed the shot that mattered. Then the response comes. The giant doesn't disappear. The White House steps in and the tone shifts. That's not the plan, according to the White House. That version is not serious. That was thrown out there. At the same time, Donald Trump goes on Truth Social talking about a different 15-point plan, saying agreements are already in place, insisting there will be no enrichment, and emphasizing that the real discussions are happening behind closed doors. Of course they are. Every time Donald Trump says something, it's proved to be a lie in some form or fashion. Okay. Now we got two realities here. One side is saying this is what just happened. The other side, this is how we'll be told. Okay. Go back to the moment in which David threw the stone. David didn't match the strength with strength. He used something small, precise, and aimed at the one place that mattered. Today, that's the Strait of Hormuz. Iran didn't try to outmatch the U.S. military. They targeted the checkpoint, mines, drones, coastal systems, controlled passage. And when that hit, oil jumped $126 a barrel. That wasn't a price move. That was a pressure on the entire system. The entire system is under strain. That's wild. The pressure is on in the Strait of Hormuz. Even now, that's all somebody got to do. That's all they got to do right there is what you see in the picture. So all they got to do in the Strait of Hormuz is do that right there. Okay. They have gotten the upper hand of Goliath. Regulated passage, controlled movement. Their plan says clearly they're going to control the Strait of Hormuz. They're going to control it. That's the stone still in play. That's David's stone still in play. Now both sides stand facing each other. One says no enrichment, free passage, full control. The other says we control the strait, we set the terms. Get up out of here. Same valley, Valley of Elah. Same standoff. And here's the bigger thing, right? The story never ended when Goliath fell. That was the turning point, not the ending. Because what really broke wasn't just the giant. It was the belief that the giant couldn't be touched. That's what's happening right now. Iran took damage, real damage, but it didn't collapse. They stepped forward. That's resilience. That's resilience. Meanwhile, the message is shifting. Workable, then not that version, then progress is happening. That's not clean dominance. That's adjustment under pressure. Because if everything was fully under control, like the president keeps saying, you wouldn't see conflicting versions of what's going on. You wouldn't see corrections. You wouldn't see narrative management. That's where the assumption starts to crack. The belief that might is always right. The bigger person always wins. That power alone decides everything. And we can tell that it frustrated the president. We can tell that he was bothered by it because he was mad on Truth Social. He got on there and just started clowning. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. Nothing like it. Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards. This is what little David did. Little David knew he couldn't beat Goliath. So the only weapon he had is the strait. That's the only weapon they got is the Strait of Hormuz. That's it. That's the only weapon that Iran has. Okay. The assumption that might always wins. That's not what's going to happen here. We are seeing it in real time. That's where the assumption is starting to crack. The belief that the United States wins all the time. That's not how that goes. A smaller side of force is forcing a larger one to pause, to get up out of here. The image has changed. Now we got to step back and look at this. United States brought overwhelming power, armor, precision, scale to this fight, and they still couldn't do anything about the Strait of Hormuz. Iran answered with position, timing, and geography, and one move that hit the core of everything, the Strait of Hormuz. That was the slingshot. That was the stone. And even now, that leverage is still shaping everything. Trump's post project total control, threatening deadlines, warnings of destruction, but reality shows something more complicated than that. The reality is something more. I didn't realize they had that many. I didn't realize it was like that. You know, I didn't realize it had this many ships and tankers in that particular area. I didn't know it was that dense. Okay. Trump keeps threatening, giving them deadlines, warnings of destruction. The ceasefires are tied to the Strait of Hormuz. A smaller player still has leverage over the United States, and the public narrative don't fully line up to what's happening behind the scenes. We're not getting a clean version from this White House. We're getting layers and liars and statements and corrections and contradictions. And that exposes something deeper. There's a built-in assumption that might always win. That might's always winning. That strength ends the story very quickly, that the giant doesn't have to adapt. But that's not always true, because when a smaller side understands the terrain, understands the pressure points, It can force even the strongest power to slow down and deal with it. Okay. And this is what Iran has done. Iran is the David. Iran is the David. Okay. And there's nothing that the United States can do. They have the biggest army, the best army, the biggest skill. They have all of that, and they still can't beat Iran. Hey, Ms. Walker. Hey, Jay Walker. But they still can't beat Iran. They can't do anything for them. And the story of David and Goliath is the truest story that could be written about this particular subject. This is what we're watching. Now, both sides are standing in that valley of Elah, talking and adjusting. So the real question is simple. Can the United States take the slingshot away from David? Or are we watching a moment where precision and power and positioning and understanding of the ground matters more than the size of the United States Army? Okay? Does it matter? The United States is pushing that message, saying it's in control, saying the real deal is happening behind closed doors, saying their terms are the only ones that matter. Iran is doing the opposite, putting everything out in the public, saying they still control the strait. They're going to control the strait. You're going to let them control the strait. You ain't got nothing to say. Remember the story of David and Goliath. The giant United States comes and says, I'm embarrassed that you let this young guy try to beat me. And sure enough, David took his little pebbles and his slingshot and felled that giant. That's Iran, putting the slingshot and the pebbles to the United States forehead and felling the giant. Okay. Saying that they control the strait, they're going to continue to control the strait. Whatever the president is telling you has got to be a lie, because he has no control over that strait. The strait is the leverage, still tying everything to that narrow stretch of water. Iran knew when this fight started that they had the leverage. We can't beat y'all. We can't beat Goliath. We can't beat you in might, in force, in strength. We can't do that. That's exactly what Iran said. We can't ever beat the United States in strength and might. We can't ever do anything with you. Okay? But what we can do and what we're going to do is tie you up and give you a headache for a long time, because we have the power. Okay? Nothing is settled. Nobody has walked away. This is still a lie. And then Iran don't have any incentive to stop, because they have control. Can the United States actually take control of the strait back and make it operate on its own terms? That's all Iran got to do, is park a ship right here, just like you see on the picture. Park a ship right there in the middle of that strait. And it's over for these people. It's over for anybody who wants to get through. You're going to have to come talk to me. That's all Iran got. Iran has been saying it from day one. United States, you can bomb all you want to, but you're going to have to come talk to me. You have to come see me. And when the president says it's over, we just going to bomb, you can't do nothing. Okay? Can the United States take control of the strait and make it operate? Not without boots on the ground, they can't. So they ain't got no terms. They waiting for Iran to make it. And Iran released a 10-point discussion. But here's the thing. Even if the United States took it back, even if the United States took the Strait of Hormuz back, there would be military force in that country forever. It would be a forever war. Because they got to deal with the fact that Iran can keep disrupting that strait whenever it wants to. That's what it comes down to, point blank, period. It ain't no speeches to it. Ain't no post to it. Not what's being said on TV. Don't believe what you're saying on TV. That's all Iran got to do is park a ship just like that. They going to control who moves through the water and who's going to control the water. We can bomb all we want to, but unless we're determined to keep boots on the ground, unless we're determined to be a permanent presence in Iran, they can't stop Iran. And David all day is Iran. Goliath thought they could come over with their strength, with their might, with their planes, with their technology, and thought they could rule over Iran. And they can check that small choke point right there to force the biggest military in the world to pause, negotiate, and adjust. You got to come see me. So people keep saying, oh, the United States is big and blah, 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 blah. That don't mean jack shit. The biggest might in the world doesn't mean anything. It means size alone doesn't determine what goes on. It means leverage does. Because this is not ancient history. This is happening right now today. And everybody from governments to markets to everyday people are watching the gas prices rise. And we all feeling this choke. We're all feeling this block of the Strait of Hormuz from Iran. And it's in real time. This is a picture in real time of what they could do to cut off the Strait of Hormuz. And that's fascinating to watch, that a giant such as the United States can be failed by such a smaller entity like Iran and their ineffective Navy and Air Force and Army and ground gang. They can be failed just as easily. And we don't even have to touch the United States for it to feel their power, right? And this is the story of the modern day David and Goliath playing out in real time with the United States and Iran. So you guys tell me how you like that story. Put it in the comments below for the replay. Put it in the comments below and tell me what you thought of this story. Tell me what you thought of how I told it. And I'll see you in the next one.